fatal blow. Observe the sums of time, guided by civilization. Light a beacon, spread the words. The world cries sounding from afar. Fire and sword piercing through. We'll never surrender. For our lives, for victory. From the King of Glory. The symbol, touch the sky. Together, heart champions. Without fear, climb the highest mountain. The way to glory is higher than the sky. The sail the world through the valley. And a hero that'll make history. Words will spread through kindness. Temple the God will walk up battle be too late to never end. Swords come through the gates of hell. All will be ready. Unstoppable warriors, impeccable strategies. When the sharpest of blade are drawn, enemies will be cut like the symbol. For all glory, fight to the top, and will be my call. Storm is coming, reveal the mystery. Hidden warriors already to give a fatal blow. Observe the sums of time, guided by civilization. Light a beacon, spread the words. The world cries sounding from afar. Fire and sword piercing through. We'll never surrender. For our lives, for victory. From the King of Glory. The symbol, touch the sky. Together, heart champions. Without fear, climb the highest mountain. The way to glory is higher than the sky. The sail the world through the valley. And a hero that'll make history. Words will spread through kindness. Temple the God will walk up
What is going on, Governors? Chiscool here, and today we're going to be casting an exciting matchup. 489 versus 88 VH. But joining me for this week's cast is none other than your favorite governor, Ruz. Hello, my friend. Welcome to the cast. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good. What's up?
Hey, I know it's bright and early for you, or at least you may have just woken up for today's stream. I also set my alarm nice and early, and if you're watching from home, I hope that you're hyped for this matchup. 489 versus well, I mean, hold up. Let me just put the whole bracket up on the screen here. Hold on. Here we go. 88 VH versus 489. The matchup we're casting in the bottom. Ruz, you and I are going to be casting all morning after we cast 489 versus 88 VH. Imminently, we're going to cast RoK versus 60 GT. And the top side of the bracket is also being cast right now. So this is going to be a really hype morning for our Osiris League Grand Prix. Now, I know that you've made some notes on this matchup that we've got coming up based off of 489 having battled against USD already and 88 VH having battled against FF15, which was one of the community teams. What are your thoughts on today's matchup between 489 and 88 VH? Is this going to be a close game?
So, yeah, in my opinion, like with a combination of things, I think 489 should be in a pretty comfortable spot to be winning this. Like not even considering regular Osiris League, but since they played, I think during the second week, it wasn't the second week, but based on previous opponents from the first week, they got a lot more practice in 489 against USD. So I think that they have a lot more of a warm-up than 88 VH's game, which was a little less competitive than 489's game, I'd say. So I think that with the momentum, I think that they should be able to carry it through. And just the fact that, they've been playing for quite a while now. I mean, we played KVK against that group, quite a bit. And Blackjack, obviously, like in our really big Strife KVK, it goes way back. So I think this group is very comfortable together. So they should be able to be pretty comfortable in their spot against 88 VH.
Yeah, so for those of you that aren't perhaps as familiar with the inside baseball here, Blackjack was originally in Kingdom 1021. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes,
and
1021.
They migrated to 2489. This is an international server team. So that 2489 team, it's really a Blackjack team now in 2489. And there were actually two teams from 2489, although they were eliminated last week by RoK, who will be playing against GT. Now, just looking at this matchup in terms of the Grand Auric placement, the community feels pretty evenly about this matchup, with an almost exact 50-50 split of Grand Aurics between 489 and 88 VH, a slight Auric favor going to 489. So I think this matchup that we're going to be casting today is going to be really, really hype. The community believes this is going to be a really close matchup. And if we had to guess, what do you think the point differential is going to be between these two teams today? What is the final score gonna have in terms of the difference between the winner and the loser? And this is a single elimination tournament, so you got to get that W. We're looking at a 3,000 point game, 5,000 point game.
So I think it can actually be surprisingly close. 489 doesn't actually provision based on their last game. We'll see if they change that up this game.
Yeah.
And they also play but on the other hand, they play a really strong building game. So maybe they make up their points just from occupation, as well as some arcs. I think at most it would be probably a 5 to 7k point gap between the two. Like let's say 2 arcs at max. I don't think it'll be any more than that.
Okay. So we have seen some games have a wider spread, but this game you're expecting to certainly be less than 7,000 points. I mean, I'm going to say it's going to be a super close 3,000 point game. And I think you bring up a really interesting point about provisioning. So there are a bunch of different competitive Osiris formats. And by the way, we do have the stream on a heavy delay in order to protect the competitive integrity of the game. I'm actually going to be stepping into the match as I speak, getting set up to cast here, because the players are entering into the map right now. However, I feel like in this format, provisioning is back on the table because players all have access to a equipment, right? What is it that the players have access to in this particular format? They've got all the commanders. They've got a huge amount of troops. You may know the exact number. And then they've got 5 pieces of equipment, of like literally every piece of equipment in the game, right?
Well, they actually don't have every commander in the game. They have every epic and legendary commander in the game, but they're missing the blue ones. And that's really crucial when it comes to provisioning, because I think you're losing a lot of value when it comes to building up multiple marches of provisions, because a lot of the blue ones are actually surprisingly good for Ark of Osiris nodes. Right? Yeah. The way that translates in game, I don't think. I do think that it does have a pretty large impact. Like on top of the fog, if players didn't know before the fog change was introduced, provisioners were really, really they were shown that they were present in every game. You either have 1 or 2 people hard provisioning with 3 to 5 marches throughout the whole game, or you'd have a couple of people farm with 1 to 2 marches. But it was very there was a really big presence of provisioning, and that was mainly because you can plan where to send your next your commanders to different nodes. But with fog, that completely changes it. It's quite large.
But there were teams pulling down an upwards of 5,000 points, I want to say, from provisioning, maybe 4,000 points, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, 100%.
So you can get a very meaningful amount of points. So this contrasts really, I think, starkly with regular Osiris League gameplay, where, to your point, you have access to all the commanders and everything from your roster. And this compares also very, I think, starkly to the grand finals, where you don't have any equipment and provisioning is the least advantaged in that competitive format, right? So the matchup begins here in 5 seconds. Let's bring the hype in the chat. Grab that gift code as it now disappears. Don't worry, it'll be back on the screen later. And let's do this thing. 489 out the gate. Hidden Sentry gets deployed. And where are the sentries going? Bottom right side of the map, behind the Shrine of War.
That's
Rez,
quite interesting, actually.
Why is it that we don't see all of the sentries in the same 4 spots? It's either in the bottom right or the upper left. Also, did one team forget to drop a sentry?
Yeah, I don't see a sentry from 88VH at all. So
Oopsies.
I wonder if they're... I actually don't think that's too bad. I think if they place it within the next couple of seconds, it will give value, because placing it at the very start doesn't really give you anything. So here we actually see Makote 5 from 88VH places the sentry above, between the Desert Altar and Shrine of Life. So
above the pyramid,
they did what I was guessing. Right.
So
I think the goal of that one is to see if, because that is their weak side, right? Or quote unquote weak side, where it's their Desert Altar side. So it takes the same amount of time for 88VH to walk to their Desert Altar as for 489 to walk to their Desert Altar.
Yep.
So they're placing that ward to potentially guard or spot if 489 is going for an aggressive play on their obelisk.
And I mean,
that's the reason it's in between.
Funny thing is that, this I would say is an aggressive placement of a sentry by 489. 100%. So they're not wrong to want to have this defensive. It's funny because it's on the enemy side of the map. But to your point, this is considered to be the weak side of the map for 489. And the sort of stronger side of the map, as you were describing, for 88VH. And that simply has to do with the walk time. It just takes longer to walk to your Desert Altar. It's
and
longer for you, which is kind of funny.
Maybe an aggressive obelisk push on 489's obelisk. So we'll see in the next couple of minutes, I guess.
Here we go. Here comes the rally in on the obelisk. I love that 88VH is, keeping it honest with this double C moving up in an attempt to try to get the obelisk for free. We know, because we have complete vision of the map, that that's not going to happen. So they're not going to be able to pull down that particular structure. But as we look around the map here, we would expect to see the action at these altars momentarily. And You know, the only thing that's kind of surprising to me is how much presence is in the middle already. Do you see this? Why are they in the middle? Like, normally no one goes to the middle, but both teams have mid presence. What is going on here?
Yeah, so these are known as like sort of disrupt marches. So you'll often see a handful of marches walk through mid with 1 or 2 rallies to the outpost just to get, there are flexible players, troops moved up towards the enemy side of the map. And this is mainly just because of, point disruption on the outpost side. Those outposts actually generate the least amount of points of like the altars and the shrines. But over time, if you do control them, a majority of them, you'll make up quite a big point difference against the enemy team.
I mean, they also give vision to the Arc, which is perhaps underrated in its value. We do see a rally going through, and it hasn't been canceled yet for 489. So 489 actually going to go for this ob, which is surprising to me, but I think they're going to do it. Okay. You know, it's funny. The first blood is actually this mid fight, weirdly enough.
Right.
And then there's the fights in these other places. Both teams using Dust Up. Dude, this is very unusual. I feel like the meta to this point... Oh, they canceled the rally on the obelisk. The meta to this point has been to not use any points until you have the mid fight. But when one team uses points, you kind of have permission to mirror it. Do you see what I mean?
Right.
Like...
100%.
Basically, teams are afraid to give themselves a disadvantage in the mid fight in terms of the quantity of points they have deployed. So it's a common strategy to just mirror what the opposing team is doing with regard to deploying their points leading up to the mid fight, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. Brawl
I can
unfolding.
definitely see reason for it. I mean, the 4 altars at the very start are like major, right? If you manage to get the first occupation for that, you're scoring 750 points just off the bat. And the very first arc is only 3,000. So if you're able to get first occupation, you're more than likely also to hold it for, let's say, another minute or 2 while they try to get it back. So you're actually gaining a lot of points compared to if you were to spend those points in arc. So I don't think they can afford to really cheap out on skill points here, and they have to match them.
Really exciting. A lot going on. The initial capture, as you described, is so critical. And we've seen teams really take advantage of this for an early lead in this very tournament. So it's unsurprising to see, especially as you were describing, 489 really went for buildings last time around, right? Do you think they're going to try to do that again? I mean, the map is looking pretty blue. They've got access to 3 altars. Oh, yeah. Dude, look at the sky altar. Look how much blue is at the sky altar that ought to belong to 88 VH. They are all over that. I mean, if I were betting money...
Is absolutely massive.
Yeah, these guys are going to go building game, I think, instead of for arcs.
100%.
I think the most likely thing is that teams do what they did the last game they played. You know? I mean, as cool as it would be to really see teams mix it up every match, that's actually really hard to pull off. So it just wouldn't be surprising to me if they go for that variety. Also, wait a minute. 88VH has taken the Desert Altar. Like, we were spectating this earlier, and I can't believe they pulled that off. Oh my gosh, this map is so blue. Shrine of War flips over to 489 as well. I mean, normally I don't click all over the place. I feel like I'm hectic over here trying to cover all of the different structures getting hit.
Yeah, it's quite surprising that 88VH was able to take their Desert Altar. I would have said that 49 was in the perfect spot, like the absolute Exodia, position to win this game. Just having 4 altars off the bat, generating points with first occupation. I mean, like we were just talking about, it's 750 points per altar, right? So if they were to get first occupation cap on all 4, that's an instant 3,000 points for their team.
Yeah,
within the first couple of minutes of the game.
It's points for their team and it's point denial as well, which is pretty important. The Shrines of War are also both blue right now. And I don't know if it's going to stay that way. We don't have a proper captain here in the Shrine of War. We've got XY, who is not a good substitute for Jan Zisko or Jadwiga. But if they are able to get this other one, I mean, that's, another 400 points. And these buildings are heavily contested. I mean, this Shrine of War might flip yet again. Looks like it's going to hold, though. So, I mean, 420 till mid-fight. Folks should be getting to the middle, right, Rez? Like, isn't this the time?
100%. I mean, even like most teams, I mean, depending on the team, they like to get there at least at 2 minutes before the arc spawns. Some like to do 3 just in case to get a better position in mid. But, I mean, we can see from the tracks of the field marches, it actually looks like 49 is going for either a bit of a bait or a bit of a like half-half. So we see that people from spawn on the 49 side are walking to mid, but people in lane are still sending to their lane buildings. And that's pretty interesting in my opinion. I mean, I definitely see the reason for it. They're holding the enemy Sky Altar. I mean, they're holding all 4 altars, actually. And they've also fully capped them, 2 of them. So they're going to be gaining points on the other 2 within a minute or minute and a half. I can definitely see a reason for skipping first Arcia.
Yeah. I mean, I think they won last week, and they're basically saying, hey, let's run that back again. That was pretty good.
Right.
And when you think about the value of buildings, it stays the same all throughout the match, whereas the value of arcs goes up and up and up. So I think it's super reasonable to do the sort of full court press we're seeing here on buildings with the intention of ideally offsetting the first arc anyways with extra first capture points, right? Deny your opponent 750 points and put those 750 on your side of the board. That is massive.
Oh, it looks like 49 is doing something really, really special in mid. Just have a look in mid with the tracks. They're actually hugging the sides of the middle of the map. And it looks like they're going to circle around and go for the structures. They're skipping mid entirely.
No.
They're back. No, they're converging.
They are converging. Like
they
sharks.
88VH mid-rotation. It looks like 88VH rotate back out for altars because they thought they were skipping and they went back in. That's really smart play.
What a play. So 489, let me run this through for everybody because it's happening so fast. Pressured the buildings so hard, and they were absent in the middle. So 88VH sent their presence to the buildings instead of to mid. But what 489 was actually doing was creeping along the walls of the canyon, so they just couldn't be seen. So once they realized that 88VH had undercommitted to middle, they pounced on the folks that are in mid, and 88VH is actually in jeopardy of losing this arc. I mean, I would say if they don't change something fast, they are losing this arc.
This is insane for 49. I mean, not only are they're generating points on all 4 altars. So not only did they get first occupation on all 4, they're now generating points per minute. And like you said before, it's not just point generation for their team, it's point denial for the other team. I mean, it's 890 points per minute for the 49 side and 130 for the 88VH side. So if they manage to score this arc, it's another 3,000 points that they add to that gap, and it's only going to keep getting bigger and bigger until 88VH can stabilize their side of the buildings.
Yeah, this is not the even matchup that players anticipated. 88VH, hold up! Master Strategist? Where are they going?
It'll show in a minute, I think.
I see where they're picking up their players. Let's see if we can see where they go. Where? Wait,
I would assume it's behind the temple.
Where did they deposit? It's not to the temple.
It didn't show for me.
Wait, are the marches still there? Oh my god, they were still there. That's a fat finger for sure. Misclick. I think the reason we couldn't see where they were going is because they tapped twice on the screen, and instead of going anywhere, they teleported themselves right to where they were. This is one of those moments where either I'm goofing as a caster or somebody made a mistake, but you can drop those Fs in the chat because either way, that is a disaster.
Look, I'm not going to say I understand, but I understand.
I mean,
the first time I was messing around with that in Arc, it got a bit, getting used to.
Yeah. So that is not great for 88 VH. Yeah, so they do get a buff coming off of that, but I feel like the debuff to morale in voice chat has got to be palpable if you're in their voice chat right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is a 6-point ability. You can't mess up a 6-cost ability and expect to be winning the matchup in such a competitive landscape.
Right. I mean, you compare it to the other very well-known 6-point ability. I mean, we all know To the Death, right? So To the Death is, most people know, the arc winning skill. If you pop that skill in mid and the other team does not have a To the Death, you are pretty much winning guaranteed, unless some other circumstances where maybe the other team has an extra skill that really flips it. But like you said, it's a 6-point ability, so it really needs to be used with like decisiveness, and that those chain of reactions was not ideal for 88VH.
No, like that is, if you put your Grand Oryx on 88VH, that's really gotta hurt to see that chain of events unfold. Because here's the thing. If you're losing the building game, which is what's happening right now for 88VH, then you have to win the arc. And I actually think that with all those troops, let's assume it was the full 30 troops deployed to middle, like they would have won that arc potentially. I feel like, I don't know, they seemed so prepared to make that play that it like that felt like a what I'll often say is cute more than good. Like if they just had all those marches in the middle on time, they wouldn't have lost mid to begin with, and they wouldn't have had to use 6 points to win the arc. Like, I don't know, call me crazy, but I kind of feel like that sequence of events, even when we plan it out, does not look very optimal to me. Even if it went, perfectly as planned, that would have been a very expensive arc, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would agree.
By the way, do you want to read Master Strategy just so that everybody understands what it does?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's not seen that much, so I'd understand if a lot of people don't actually know what it does specifically. Pretty much what it does is, obviously, we just referenced, it was a 6-cost ability, so it's quite big. It moves up to 30 of your team's troops to a target destination in 20 seconds. So the way it works is you highlight 30 troops, and it'll start channeling to a new destination. After 20 seconds, it teleports those troops to that destination. And it also gives them a buff. So it'll give them a 50% attack buff for about 3 minutes.
That's
once they've been TP'd. It's
50%
quite big.
attack. I thought it was an all damage buff, but it's actually an attack buff, isn't it?
Yes, it's an attack buff.
Okay. Yeah. So
the reason it's an attack buff is because the other skills are already all damage buffs. So there needs to be a little bit of diversity, or there's going to be too many diminishing returns with the buffs.
So there you go.
Like dust up in total vision.
I mean, 50% attack for 30 marches, teleported on top of that arc, which would have been all week anyways. I mean, misusing that skill is kind of like you had a moment that would have been so good it could have been the play of the game, and instead it's just like, yeah.
Right.
It's entertaining, but also it hurts so much that even though I'm not on that team, I feel the pain of that gameplay right there.
100%.
Oh.
I mean, we can really see 49's building superiority in this game. For those that didn't watch the last game against USD, they were really dominant in their occupation game. They were 29,000 in occupation score to USD's 18,000 by the very end of the game, and that's quite insane. It's a really big gap, and we can really see that this game, like 4 ultas, and they've held it for what, almost 20 minutes now.
I mean, they even just took an obelisk. I don't know, man. This is. I mean, after that play, I do hope that 88VH is not just like tapping out and calling it a day, but this map is so blue. You know, if I were to pick one thing to be good at, either the arc game or the building game, I think the building game would be my preferred superpower, quite frankly.
100%.
The building game is super underrated, and it's harder to do than Arc. I mean, look, can I tell you the secret to Arc? You ready? Get more marches to the middle.
Yep.
Congratulations, you have an advantage.
Yep.
Now, I'm diminishing the skill involved in actually playing the mid fight. Wait, no.
Oh, master strategy from the 489 side.
So at this point,
Oh.
they are deploying their master strategy to the starting zone
The
of
enemy
88
gates.
VH. I don't know if that's just to point out to us that there are only 2. Did they even send any units?
I'm not sure. No, they didn't send anyone.
What?
Um,
I thought they were just bragging, like, yeah, we got you. May as well just quit the match. But like, did they quit the match?
I mean,
Like, actually, I think they quit the match, broski. I think they're gone.
wait, there's no 88 VH cities left.
Yeah. No, I
There's
think
a
they
couple,
actually
but-
just left the match.
Wow. They fully left.
I mean, not fully, but like pretty close.
There's like 10 people left. I'll consider that fully at this point.
I mean, the whole map is blue. You remember when I said you'd love to hear their voice chat right now?
100%.
This is one of those moments where team leadership goes a really long way. And I mean, they may have as a team just been like, all right, we call it. I don't think that the position they were in was unrecoverable. I think they could have stuck it out and maybe, kept a narrow score gap, but like,
See, that's where I disagree a bit. And the reason being is because I think that tempo in an arc match is the absolute king.
I don't disagree with you, actually.
If you dominate early game tempo, that, like, as hard as 489 did, like, let's just recap what happened at the very start, right? So 49, they took all 4 altars. They didn't get first cap straight away, but they got first cap on 2 of them straight away. 2 minutes later, they got first cap on the other 2, and they also pulled that maneuver in mid, where they were able to get the 3k point gap from the first arc, while also generating points from all 4 altars during that time. I mean, at that point, do you even call it tempo? I don't know what to call it.
Yeah. So there is a lot to say for tempo in Arc of Osiris, as you were describing, right? Like, if you control the arc timing, you can control when your troops are at the buildings versus when they're in mid. It's actually super meaningful to be able to do that. But that doesn't mean you can't ultimately flip the script with some coordination and sort of rebuild your board.
Mm-hmm.
It is surprising that 88 VH is like, all right, guys, you got us. And they literally tapped out of the match here. So the whole screen is blue.
The only problem with 88 VH recovering this game is when 49s got that much of a lead within the first 20 minutes. I'm not saying the lead's not recoverable, but when they have that many marches, I mean, I'm sure you've felt it. You remember how you used to play on Skyalter lane in the SW team? You've felt the hammering when there's, dozens of marches in your lane, and it just feels so hard to try and get your building back. Try that for all 4 of the major buildings on your side. It's pretty overwhelming. Although you do manage to wear them down eventually, and you're able to get your structures back, like I said, like, it all just comes back down to rotations. 49 will just send their marches right back and probably cap them before they even start generating points. So I definitely think they were in quite a bad position at the very start of the game.
So let's get a look at some of these city garrisons here. I mean, I think what we get to spectate for the next 35 minutes is the remaining players that were over 200 mil power getting zeroed. We've got a Ramses captain on this particular city.
Mm-hmm.
Not ideal.
Not ideal.
Not ideal. What would you say is your ideal city garrison in this situation?
City garrison. I mean, okay, so we know that Grand Prix. Well, we were talking Grand Prix accounts,
Grand Prix
right?
situation.
So,
Grand Prix situation.
So Grand Prix accounts are like roughly 258 mil. So with 58 mil being mostly like commander, building, and equipment power, it leaves 200 mil for troops. So that's 5 million of each T5 troop, right? 4 million? Am I doing the math? 5 million. So with that many troops, I would probably run Hero ISS. Oh, sorry, not Hero ISS. Oh no, actually
Yeah.
Hero ISS would be my go. Yeah,
I mean,
Hero ISS with leadership set.
you could start with Theo and then switch to YSS at the 50% mark. So I don't know if that's
yeah.
actually better, but remember that you get a 20% all damage boost from YSS when you're below 50%, and a
Right.
10% all damage boost from Theo when you're above 50%. By the way, they got ported out, so they're wall burned. This player's got Gorgo on the wall. Ooh. I mean,
Gorgo.
dude, they're swarming these cities. They're not even like rallying
One has
them.
Dido as well. Oh, who wants to spend the time rallying? Come on.
Yeah, true. I mean, who has 60 seconds to run a rally anyways?
Yep.
Ain't nobody got time, I believe, is what we say about that. Wow. Okay. They are doing a little bit of field fighting over here.
Do you think Theo would be better at the start? I guess she gets the
think
cleanse
so.
as well, which is pretty good.
I mean, you hit 5 targets with some fat AoE. I think that's not bad. And you clear debuffs. That's so good for this swarm, too. Yeah, no, I think Theo would be good, actually.
Okay, so while we're here and on the topic of debuffs, what would be your 5 picks to? Okay, let's say 5 picks to like marches to middle. What are your top 5 marches to arc middle if you could choose?
I can tell you what I feel like we've been seeing, and
Right.
the 5 marches we see are Skippy with Liu Che. We see Nevsky and Joan, Huo with William, and we see XY with Justinian. And then the final march would be Ethel and Trajan.
So you wouldn't run any archers in middle.
I don't know that we run archers in middle anymore. Like,
I think Boudica and Zuge is too strong to pass up on. What I think's happening is I'm seeing a lot of XY Williams, right? So because I think XY, so I mean we'll touch on this a little bit later when we look at the GT match, but using GT as a reference, looking at their like games, not only just in the Grand Prix, but also their Osiris League season, they like to run a split actually with their cab marches. So in lane, sorry, not in lane, in middle, they like to run half their team doing XY William and the other half doing Hoi William, just to bring more AoE. And that way they're able to fit in that last Archer march.
I mean, I do agree with you that the power level of Boudica Zhuge Liang is really high. And circle AoE, especially in a mid-fight, seems really good. The problem is that in a world where everybody's bringing full cavalry, your archers are literally hard countered by what people are doing. But on the flip side, everybody is running Ottoman anyways for the march speed as their civilization. So technically your archers have more stats, literally more stats and more base stats. So maybe that offsets perhaps the fact that literally everyone and everything in mid is countering you, and the only thing you counter is the infantry, and there's not that much of that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really like to look at counters specifically when it comes to troop types because you really don't know what you're hitting, like especially in arc middle specifically. In KVKs with like smaller balls, you can kind of min-max what you're hitting. I probably would just go for like what is my strongest 5 marches that can output the most damage, whether it's AoE or to a single target.
Whew. Xeno's a good choice. Actually, a great choice for a city garrison in this situation, by the way. Because you don't care about your hospital overflowing. So.
Oh, so you're just healing?
Yeah, Xeno's great. Xeno's actually great. So just keeping your troops alive is super valuable here in a way that it would not normally be. Here we've got a Flavius. Let's see what the secondary is on this city swarm.
You know, with the Theo idea, it actually probably is the right call because you have so many troops, you're staying above your like quote unquote 50% a lot longer than you usually would.
Oh yeah. compared to your average player getting rallied in a KVK.
Right.
Yeah.
When
Oh
you're,
yeah.
80, 90 mil in a KVK, just like couple normal attacks of an Attila, you're already below half.
Oh yeah. It's a big deal. The
Oh.
all damage in this game is so noticeable. Like, it's so noticeable. So I think even though 10% is not much, it's huge. It doesn't sound like much. It's actually an impact quite meaningful. And I'll add to that clearing the debuffs when you're 12x swarmed is undeniably good. It's so powerful. Because think about it. I mean, you could have an attack debuff, a defense debuff, a health reduction. You just get rid of all of it. You get rid of poison stacks, Herman Prime, right? Like, you're getting rid of like all the things. By the way, I don't have any special insight into Herman Prime, although I sort of wish that I did. But I will point out that if you read the poison description on Theodora in game, there was a moment in time where Herman Prime was mentioned, which is pretty funny. So, he may be a poison commander. Could just be a typo. But I think players are all hyped for the new archers, which is a segue, by the way, to talking about new archers. Do you think when new archers come out that then it will be correct to bring archers to mid?
It really depends. I think I mean, a lot of people are like rumoring that they're, or like guessing that they're smite commanders. Do you think that they're going to be smite commanders based on the trend, or do you think that they're going to be more single target? Okay.
I think that given that we have some possible, information in game visible to us about a poison ability, I think if I had to guess, I would say these new archers are going to be about skill damage. And like, if I were, and here's the thing is, you could take or leave my advice, because if I were predicting what these sort of specialties could have been for troops, I would have said that infantry would be about shielding, archers would be about skill damage, and then cavalry would have been about normal attack damage. That would have been my guess. But we've got infantry right now being the smite, aka normal attackers, and shielders. So infantry get a lot of cool effects, actually. And there is the last city getting zeroed. I am Cat. We beg of you to hold on for another 26 minutes, because we'll be here casting it for another 26 minutes. I know, so. Whatever that is that we have to spectate.
He's going down with the ship.
Yeah. Hey, look, you got to respect the captain going down with the ship. Are they the captain of the team, actually?
Yeah, they're the team leader. And as far as I know, one of the R4s, I know them as an R4, R5, but I'm 99% sure they're the team captain.
You got to respect the team captain going down with the ship. Yikes. Oh, man. Gorgo Garrison. What do you think about Gorgo for city defense?
Is she really better than Hera?
I don't think so for city defense. I think she could be okay with Hera. Like in this situation where you're getting 12x swarmed, I actually think she's really good because the normal attack boosts are actually crazy. And, she's getting low enough here that she is, I think, inflicting that quite frequently, the 50% attack. Is it 30% attack reduction on the 5 troops, which is kind of nice. So when Gorgo's below 50%, she does, like a really solid AoE debuff, which is a lot less relevant for typical open fielding and is a lot more relevant, I would say, in this situation with a garrison. Oh my god. Chat's got a lot to say, by the way, about the current state of the board. I haven't been paying attention to the chat as much as perhaps I ought to, because we're on such a heavy delay that, like, what are you going to do? Yeah. But, oh, man. Chat's got some opinions about departing from the match. I mean, I don't know. Is there Kingdom in KVK right now? 88 VH? Do you
Wait,
know?
you wanna? Oh, I thought you wanted to go spectator KVK. I'd be like, I'm down.
No, I mean,
Nah.
yo, I'd be down to spectate KVK, but I wonder if they like had a need to leave, right? Like,
Mhm.
are they not playing Kingsland because they're here or something? Like, I don't know. What do you think the
I'm not sure,
situation
but
is?
even if it came down to like Kingsland, well, I know. So we know that there are 846 players like in the 88 VH team, right? And 846 just entered their KVK. I'm pretty sure, or at least I've seen their KVK matchup. Yeah, so they're only 846 are only 3 days into KVK, so they don't have much going on. 88 VH on the other hand, I'm not sure. They're 17 days into KVK.
Oh, they could actually
So
have KVK fighting now.
they could have a pass opening, you think?
I don't know. I don't know if you're able to pull up their kingdom off to the side. Here we see To the Death being cast, by the way.
Wow.
They put no. The real wow is they put the To the Death in middle on the carrier, not on the players swarming the city, but on the double C that's running the arc.
I respect it.
Yeah. Oof. So yeah. Wait. So is 88 VH and KVK right now? That actually, you said 17 days into the KVK. Do they have fighting? I think they might actually have made the call to go fight in their KVK. I mean, that would be the most generous interpretation. Would be like, all right, they've got, the 30 of their best players in their kingdom. They're going to go back to KVK. That would, again, be the most generous way to interpret that. Yeah. I don't know.
No, they're an off season. They're an off season.
They're an off season? Oh.
Yep.
Whoopsies. Well,
well,
I'm
yeah.
trying to give them outs, bro, but no outs to be found.
Let's just say they're in KVK. 17 days. I'll go with it.
Hey, there's 17
They have,
days in the KVK. Hey, good news though, we have a gift code. Put that on the screen for you. RoK23 win. Make sure to drop that in. Heck, I'll go put that in right now on my accounts. Get a few goodies. I don't know. Wait, did it just say please escort the arc to a valid destination? Or did it just say he did score the arc? I was not paying attention to that message on the screen. Something about a valid destination. Well, looks like it's been scored. They took it to the outpost. They're just going to run up the score at this point, I think. And you kind of don't blame them. It's actually the best practice for a team is like a really good opponent, So for 489, like they got a little bit of practice at the start of the match, but they're kind of missing out on, prepping for their upcoming opponents, which are going to be super difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we can. How about we talk about some future matchups?
We most certainly can. We could talk about the matchups, first of all, that are coming later today. And then we can do some predictions for the rest of the bracket, perhaps. What do you think?
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, so how about the one that we're going to be covering? So what about GT versus RoK? What are your thoughts on that matchup?
So the players are heavily favoring GT. And I can actually pull up that auric distribution for you. The grand auric distribution is about 80-20, where like 20% of the aurics are on RoK and 80% of the aurics are on 60 GT. So, but here's the thing. This is the auric placement in the international server where GT is a dominant force. RoK is not really a known entity to the international servers, right?
Right. I mean, that's something about the Grand Prix that that's like, really something to look forward to is you're able to see how these two very different servers like play against each other. So you're looking at a lot of different play styles. You're looking at different pairing choices, decision making. Like a lot of the micro and macro within the game is very different, as far as I can tell, from the Chinese versus the international teams.
Yeah. And this is typically the case that in different regions you see different metas, and that's in part because of the countering system in the game where, like certain commanders counter other commanders and certain troops counter other troops. So what's exciting about this tournament is that it kind of unifies to like, hey, globally, what is perhaps the ultimate meta, like the best sort of meta game that you could find is probably what is happening in these matches. I'd say is what's happening on the screen, but what's happening on the screen is just a completely unexpected situation. Okay.
I mean, on the other side of unexpected situations, we have pretty close matchup like on the top side later on today. 93 versus GY16.
Yeah.
I actually think that's going to be a really, really good match to watch. What do you think about that?
I agree. The RoK distribution is again in that like 80-20 situation. Maybe we could say 75-25, where at least 75% of people, in fact, yes, it is 75-25. Maybe even slightly more in favor of GY16, but it's 75% 93T and about 25% GY16. So, look, I think this is another one of those situations where people are not as familiar with GY16, and so they're not putting the RoKs there, and they know, again, we're looking at the international server RoK placements, right? Like, people pick the team they know. That's just...
Yeah. Oh, I mean, 100%. I mean, especially when it comes to... what are they called? The marks? What are they called again for like general Osiris League betting? They're called marks. I forgot what they're marks of something. Marks of the champion?
Yes.
Is that what they're called?
I think so. Where you pick who's going to win the whole thing, right?
Right. Yeah, so that would be the best case where like a lot of people are just choosing who they're known for, so or who they know. So I mean, we all know GT is like the favorite in that realm. Everyone is betting on GT. Even people from other realms are betting on GT. And then you also see like a lot of familiar faces like 1v. So a lot of repeated winners people will tend to go with over some teams that they don't know.
Yeah, right. That's right. People pick what they know, even though, the sort of best bet is not necessarily the team that you know. It's the team that's in the least competitive bracket is more likely to I think, end up the winner. But often the teams that players think are going to win are not the ones that end up winning. By the way, somehow 88VH gets their obelisk back for long enough to port in 2 more cities. So
maybe they let them just to get more kills.
Yeah, I think so. Please take your obelisk back. Do something is what 489 has decided here. I mean, gosh, if you're 489, like, do you send your players offline and say, hey, like, go do something else with your time, or do you have most of them stay through the match for this? I don't know.
Nah. So if it was regular Osiris League season and you're in top 32 or an important like stage, you for sure stay, because the point differential actually matters quite a lot, right? So when it comes to like progressing through that stage, and it cuts the bottom 2 teams, or like if there's
and
teams
a tiebreaker for
points,
a group stage, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's when you stay here, because we're not really working with point differential unless they want to, pad their numbers a little bit, make it look like even bigger of a stomp than it was. Then, I mean, I guess they can have their fun swarmy cities. By the way, I do have some information on the Chinese teams, if people were interested.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
So GY16, we'll go over GY16 first because we just talked about them. They are considered the like quote unquote most glorious team in the history of the Chinese server. And what I mean by that is they have placed very highly in all 4 seasons of Osiris League on the Chinese server. So the very first season of Osiris League, they came second, and that was they're in like the Horus realm. So the Chinese server has 2 realms right now compared to the 4 in international. So first season they placed second. The second season they won, and their second team placed second. So they were like quote unquote the top 2 in that season. The third season they also won, but in the 4th season, that's when A97, the dark horse, really came out. They moved from the second Anubis to Horus, and they beat GY16 in the semifinals. So that's what caused it. So right now, GY16 is looking pretty good, honestly. They're actually considered the quote-unquote GT of the Chinese server, mostly because of their gift level. I think it's like one of the highest, I think it actually is the highest in both servers combined. I think it's easily above the 50s by now.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, so that's, I mean,
Right.
there are very few kingdoms in the game that can claim such a high gift level. That's really wild.
There's two, one for each server at the moment.
Wow. Okay, so, I mean, that's the sort of situation where I think you actually want, like, regardless of whether or not you like 93T, that's the sort of situation where the better place to put your Oryx is on GY16. Because if you win, the payoff is insane, and I think the matchup is actually much closer than it's represented potentially.
But the other side of that, 93, in my opinion, would be the best place to put bets because I firmly believe when you find something that clicks, especially when it's something like RoK, where the meta isn't constantly changing, so it's the meta isn't able to like really adapt to your playstyle really quickly, like within a couple of games, right? It usually takes a whole Osiris League for the meta to completely change. But when a team like 93 really finds something that works for them, that momentum, they can carry it forward like infinitely. They've been playing so well. They're at their peak right now. I think that they would also be a really good bet against GY16, just firmly because they have that momentum from winning like just so much. Like I'm talking grand finals, the last game against the rematch against 1v, the blood's pumping. So they're playing very well across a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely find good reason to have placed your Oryx on 93. So let's continue around the bracket then. Who else is playing today? I mean, right now, there's 466S versus A97. I don't know if we have a look into kind of what their score is at this exact moment. I might actually be able to pull that up, although on a bit of a delay, and kind of see.
It's at the moment it's 17.5 for 466S
even.
to 17 for A97. That's actually really surprising to me. I thought A97 would really be like gaining a huge advantage at the start.
Super close matchup.
Just based on gameplay.
Actually.
Right, it's really close.
Yeah. You love to see it. I mean, as fun as the City Swarm is, you love to see a close matchup. Right. Okay. So let's project out more of the bracket. You think we could do that?
Yep.
Like just some guesses while we're just sitting here. This is, just what our predictions maybe for where this could go, right? And I can actually get the bracket and drop it in here.
Let's throw that up real quick.
Let me do that. I hadn't actually prepared to add it to this particular scene, but we definitely can do that and then just adjust it really quickly to size it out correctly.
So, while you do that, I'll just give a little bit of information like that current game going on. So A97 is like the kind of like the 93 of the Chinese server. Not in the way of their like kingdom style, but more of just their momentum. They won season 3 of Osiris League in their Anubis realm. So that was the very last game they had in Anubis, and they moved to Horus and actually beat GY16. So I just mentioned that GY16 was on a really big streak until they faced A97 in the semis, and that's where they met their fate. So A97 is also on the train of really big momentum. A466 on the other hand is actually very new. So they actually won the season 4 of Osiris League in Anubis after A97 left. Huh. So we're kind of, clashing two titans, I guess. Guess little different shaped titans. One's kind of new. I mean, they're both relatively new, so it's good to see that a lot of new blood is actually being able to match the older kingdoms.
So 489 is going to play against either 466S or A97. I'm going to make a prediction here based off of how strong 489's building game is, but my prediction is that perhaps 489 goes to the final.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, that's how good I think building game is and how important it is. I don't actually know. I'm not actually watching the 466S and A97 match to tell you how that's
Okay, how about we decide?
gonna influence.
Let's. How about we just say that A97 wins that that match just based off the betting, like the community favorite, and that way we work out will A97 beat 489 or vice versa.
Sure, okay. So if the real life situation works the way the Oryx go, that's a great way of thinking about it. A97 would win if that's true, and we don't know that is, but if A97 fights 489, who do you think wins?
Look, I'm so you've seen 489's structure game, right? I actually did quite a bit of VOD reviewing on A97 prior to Grand Prix, and also like obviously watching during Grand Prix. Man, when I tell you their structure game is also pretty nutty, like it's no joke. So it's going to be that fight would actually be a really fun match to watch.
Oh, it's going to be really
it's
close,
pretty much I mean, I don't think it'll be close. I think it's whoever can. I mean, we were touching on this before, right? It all comes down to who can control the tempo of the match. So whoever gets the better start, in my opinion, or is able to pull out like a wild card strategy that they've been, keeping to their chest, I think they're going to win because they're both kind of tempo teams. We just saw 49, play quite a really strong early game building tempo, where, although they surprise 88 VH in middle, they still would have been holding 4 alters the entire time. So even if 88 VH managed to score their arc, they'd still be quite ahead based on the building game. A97, on the other hand, does quite the similar, but they also are able to do a mid rotation, and they are very strong in mid. So it's a very unique game in my opinion to watch. I just think the first 15 minutes of that match is going to be absolutely insane.
So okay, that's kind of exciting.
Right.
We don't know who's going to win that side, but let's look at the other side of the map and just talk about who wins that bracket based on community voting. I mean, if 93T wins, then they would face off against GT if they win, if the community voting is correct, right?
Right.
And we saw 93 fight 60 GT in the grand finals, and 93 won. So if that actually continued the way that like the player voting is suggesting, then 93 would potentially fight either 489 or, A97, or it could just as easily be, 466S in reality, right?
Right.
So that's actually a pretty hype matchup. Have we seen 93 fight 489 in the past?
489? I don't think so. It would be different realms, so it wouldn't be in regular Grand Finals?
It would have been in the grand finals, right? Did they fight them in the grand finals?
I can't recall, actually. I was mainly focused on 93 versus GT, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So that's one way the bracket could go. But I feel like, look, like GY16 or VOK could be victorious, and then kind of like who knows what's going to happen at that point. So the bracket is pretty exciting with regard to the possibility space for where things could go.
So they did play them. 93 won by almost 7,000 points. They won by 6,700 points. And that was... I mean, we looked at 49's building game, right? Remember how we're talking about how superior they are in terms of occupation?
Yeah.
You wouldn't guess the occupation score in that game. It was 29,000 for 93 and 16,000 for 489.
Whew. Wow. Okay. So,
I mean, if we're talking about Arc of Osiris or like Osiris League meta in general, I think the meta has changed quite dramatically in these higher tier teams where it's not just the standard like you hit enemy DA if you're on the strong side of it, and then like you defend the DA and vice versa for Sky Altar, but like the amount of skill expression and macro when it comes to rotating within the building lanes is really like proving to be important between these teams, and they can really make or break games.
Yeah, I mean, as we look around here between these, couple cities getting swarmed, it does look like they kind of aligned to Hera Primary here as being the most optimal choice. I mean, you really do want Hera involved. I actually
Hera.
think, God, there's so many interesting choices, but like Xeno Hera would perhaps be your best bet. Because
But the thing is, Xeno gives. You have to remember that the troop types are equal, and there's 5 million of each. So Hera with a leadership gear is giving so much value to your. Even the siege units are getting so much value in your
True.
city because of all the
True.
stats, right? So any stat bonus that Xeno is giving just to infantry, the Hera is going to give 4 times that value because Hera is going to be giving it to all the troops in your city.
But you got to remember the Xeno gives the health boost to all troop types and damage, which is actually really good. Like the reason I think Xeno's kind of cool in this situation is that you're starting with over 200 million power. So it's a big heal with a big heal factor. And like the more you keep that troop count up, the harder it is for them to even get to a range where they can be productive with their skill cycles. So like in that situation, I'm just going for so much shielding and healing that like you kill them on the counters.
You know, I actually forgot something to consider, but those accounts have 15 billion gems, by the way. So the infinite healing that you can do is literally infinite. I'm pretty sure.
These accounts have 15 billion gems?
Yeah, I think roughly 15 billion. It's either 1.5 billion or 15
Why aren't they healing their troops? They should gem heal.
No, they are. Look, I am Cat. He was 84 million, like not even 5 minutes ago. He's back up to 204
Let's go.
million.
Gem healing. Yes.
So they can pretty much go on indefinitely.
Yeah. I think
you should take a look at the ARC scores, the individual scores real quick.
Oh god, okay.
Yeah. I've never seen a score that high in my life. I don't know about
you. Okay. Yeah, that's a big score. 4,719,000 points for I Am Cat. It may actually be the highest score in Osiris history for an individual. Like unironically, the highest score ever obtained. I actually think it is, and they're going for the highest score in the history of the game. Not even kidding.
I think so. They're almost at 5 billion now.
This may have seemed like a joke to those watching when the match, unfortunately had a huge amount of players depart from the game, but we may be witnessing history here, folks. I Am Cat is on the verge of the highest score possibly ever. That's actually, and I don't think it could ever be replicated in a real ARC situation. You wouldn't use your speed ups this way. You certainly wouldn't use your gems this way. This could be a one of a kind rare moment you're witnessing here, folks. You're a part of history, forever to be recorded. Heaven's grace. Yeah, no, they need those heals to swarm those cities. They even have a rally coming around the corner here. They're trying to figure out how to get that in on the action, but it can't touch because the swarmers are there. One minute left to get as many points as they possibly can. Do you rack up points while you're still in combat? Or do you only get them when the combat ends? Oh, nope. He's getting points.
While you're still in combat.
Nope. No,
yeah.
It's happening.
And
he's up to 5 now.
You actually get you can probably calculate how many kills he has just based off the score he has. So the way individual scoring works in ARC is you get, I think it's 20 points per kill, 20 points per kill on garrison or on the field, but it's 40 points per rally.
I mean, he has 2.8 billion kill points. Like just think about that for a second.
Right.
Like, how long does it take in a KVK to get 3 billion kill points? Like, most people will never get 3 bill in a single KVK. And I Am Cat is sitting at 3 billion kill points in one ARC match. Jeez.
That's 3 billion in 1 hour.
That's actually crazy. Yeah, like most people, they play for like 48 hours. They're like maybe going to get that KP. Maybe. Probably not even. And I'm not talking about like 2 days of playing. I'm talking about 48 hours of like actual play time. Bro, wow.
Right.
5.5 million individual score for I Am Cat. Of course, The winner of the match, 489 here. Looking forward to seeing them play again soon. Ruz and I will be back to cast the matchup in less than an hour from now, including RoK versus 60GT. So subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll be back shortly to showcase that next match. Until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.